Current developments at Mercedes-AMG F1 are eerily reminiscent of 2016. To recall, 2016 was the only year that then triple world champion Sir Lewis was pipped to the title by his teammate, Nico Rosberg. But Nico had to be ably assisted then, in much the same way as Max was in 2021, and George is today. So, it appears that the Toto Wolff 2016 playbook is being utilized again to stop Sir Lewis. The trend at Mercedes today bears an uncanny resemblance to that of 2016. For example, through an unfortunate combination of mishaps in the garage and on track, both of Sir Lewis's teammates had opened significant leads in the head-to-head on races at the start of the season, that he was clawing back fast going into Austria. But before going further to show how Toto and Mercedes have possibly gone back in time to dig up the play that they used successfully in 2016, we invite those of you who haven't yet done so, to like, comment, share, subscribe, and click the notification icon, to be notified when the next video is uploaded. The 2024 season opened up with the dramatic news that Sir Lewis was departing for Ferrari, reminiscent of the 2016 season, opening up with the dramatic news that Mercedes were switching mechanics between both sides of their garage. Back in 2016, it appeared that after having lost to Sir Lewis 2 seasons in a row, Nico had prevailed on the Mercedes hierarchy to make the switch, so that he could gain an advantage over his teammate. Now, Toto and Mercedes went to great lengths to sell the story that they did this because the rivalry between the two drivers had seeped into their mechanics and was not good for the team. But, regardless of their excuse for the gerrymandering, Nico Rosberg was the only one that could have benefited from it, and did. Any which way you cut it, Sir Lewis was the one who had forged his team into double winners, so why should he be stripped of the fruits of his labor, which are then handed to someone else considered equally deserving? Sound familiar? Interestingly enough, in the previous year, as the feud was building up, Toto had publicly declared that he was not a school teacher, so why the change of mind? Could it be that Sir Lewis becoming a triple world champion in 2015 alerted some to the jeopardy that Schumacher's legacy was facing? Sir Lewis made it clear that he was not happy with the decision, while Nico made it clear that he was. Well, as the feud raged on in 2016, Toto, holding himself out to be an unbiased school teacher, threatened to sanction his pupils should the squabbling get out of hand. However, the problem with that ruse is that when Nico was taking liberties during the season, Mercedes looked the other way, but once Lewis pushed back, Nico would start crying, and Mercedes would threaten to sanction both, as if they could not tell who the aggressor was. Toto inadvertently admitted this, and exposed his own bias, when years later, he declared that Nico was the vicious one. If he knew that Nico was the vicious one then, why did he not take appropriate action, instead of falsely allocating blame to both? Not getting any protection from his team, or the FIA, Sir Lewis was forced to defend himself as best he could. Sounds familiar? The beginning of 2016 sounds remarkably like what is happening now, 8 years later. The only difference is that this time, the Mercedes drivers are not vying for the world title. In the first race of the 2016 season in Australia, Sir Lewis qualified on pole, with Nico in second. But at the start, Nico made contact with Sir Lewis and forced him to go wide, thereby effecting an overtake which helped him to win the race. Nico apologized to Sir Lewis after the race, but neither Mercedes nor the FIA took any action during the race, thus setting the tone for the season. In the second race in Bahrain, Valtteri Bottas, driving for Williams Mercedes, made contact with Sir Lewis, dropping him 7 places. This time Bottas received a drive-through penalty. Is it a coincidence that Bottas, who was powered by Mercedes, was driving for a team that Toto had just divested from, just a month earlier? You decide. In the third race, in China, Sir Lewis suffered a number of setbacks both in qualifying and during the race. His Mercedes engine expired during qualifying, dropping him to last on the starting grid. On top of that, he had to stop 5 times during the race, including one stop to change his front wing after Felipe Nasr made contact with him. In the 4th race in Russia, guess what? Yes, you guessed right, if you said that Sir Lewis suffered a mechanical problem which prevented him from taking part in the final qualifying session. So, for the 2nd time running, he had to start last on the grid. Of course, it was just pure luck that Nico, who had acquired Sir Lewis's mechanics at the start of the season, was off to a flying start in a Mercedes that was running flawlessly and powering him to 4 straight wins, while his teammate was suffering all types of mechanical issues. Remarkably, despite all the setbacks, including starting from the back of the grid twice in succession, falling back after contact with other drivers twice, Sir Lewis was only 43 points behind Nico, who had collected the maximum 100 points for winning every race. Well, ladies and gentlemen, what do you think happened in 5th race of the 2016 season in Spain? We will award London Bridge to the first correct answer. Come on, have a guess. Oh well, never mind. Sir Lewis did not finish that race. Yes, this time after getting through qualifying unscathed, he took pole, ahead of his teammate, who subsequently took both of them out in the first lap, paving the way for Max to claim his first Grand Prix victory. Both cars not finishing the race of course meant that Nico was able to maintain his 43-point advantage. Wonder where Max got the idea from in 2021? Anyway, back to Spain 2016, this time around, Nico did not apologize and blamed Sir Lewis for the collision. Of course, at that time Mercedes conveniently read the riot act to both drivers, as if they were equally culpable. But after a few years had passed, they admitted that they had telemetry which showed that Nico was to blame. Well, would you Adam and Eve it? So, in the first 5 races of 2016, as highlighted above, Sir Lewis, the then defending triple world champion, was 0-4 with 1 DNF for both, in the head-to-head with his uncrowned teammate. Sound familiar? If not, check out our last video. From mysterious drops in engine performance between practice sessions and qualifying, to inadvertent errors with tyre blanket temperatures, and suspect team strategies, which exclusively disadvantaged the 8 times world champion, his uncrowned teammate, romped away to a 5-0 lead in races. Now, back in 2016, Mercedes supplied engines to 3 other teams, so there were 8 Mercedes-powered cars, but somehow, only Sir Lewis's suffered mechanical issues. Tell me that is not suspicious, without telling me that it is suspicious. Now in 2024, Mercedes are again supplying engines to 3 other teams, so there are 8 Mercedes-powered cars, but somehow, only Sir Lewis's suffers mysterious drops in engine performance. We don't need a whistleblower to tell us that Mercedes are sabotaging Sir Lewis, but it is good to note that 8 years on, people are more motivated to speak out. It is equally satisfying to see Toto freaking out as he scrambles to find false narratives to hide his shame behind, as we mentioned in our previous video. Thanks, Patrick. Back in 2016, the Austrian GP was the 9th race of the season. At this race, Sir Lewis, who had cut Nico's lead down to 24 points, started on pole. Yet again, Nico made contact with his teammate, but this time on the final lap. Sir Lewis was able to continue on to win the race, while Nico dropped to 4th, picked up a 10-second penalty, plus 2 penalty points and a reprimand for continuing with a damaged car, but kept his 4th position. Well, would you Adam and Eve it, Sir Lewis was booed on the podium by the Austrian crowd. Now why would Germany's neighbour, with a shared culture and language, boo Sir Lewis for Nico's transgressions? Could it be that the crowd were comfortable expressing their preference for Nico? Why was Nico allowed to keep his position? Could it be that they didn't want him to drop more points to his fast-approaching teammate? The fourth place, which Nico broke so many rules to keep, and was allowed to keep, carried 12 points. Where is the justice in allowing someone to keep the proceeds of his crime? Do you know what would have happened if Nico had been disqualified in Austria? Sir Lewis would have taken the title lead by 1 point. Do you know how many points Nico won the title by? The answer is 5. So, had Nico been stripped of his 4th place in Austria, Sir Lewis would be a 9-time champion. Now, it was bad enough that he was booed on the podium for winning a race after surviving yet another attempt by Nico to take him out, but wait till you hear the Mercedes response. Yes folks, how do you think Toto and Mercedes responded to Austria? Toto reportedly issued both drivers a yellow card and a final warning. Yes, you heard right. Mercedes gave the repeat offender and his victim yellow cards and final warnings. But wait, the F1 media reported this as a fair move by a beleaguered Toto, who had no other choice. Damn that Lewis, if only he hadn't made himself a target, by driving while black? Or is it victim? How dare he keep forcing poor Nico to have to keep trying to take him out? How dare he keep forcing Mercedes to look the other way, when Nico was managing to just keep his offending within hidden boundaries, and then force them to sanction both, when Nico's transgressions spill out into the open? How dare he keep forcing the FIA to think up ways of sanctioning Nico without taking away any of the points that he keeps breaking the rules to get? Well, you get the picture. This is what Sir Lewis was up against in 2016. A team that was trying to give his teammate every advantage, by messing with him every which way they thought they could get away with, while the general public and the F1 media conveniently looked the other way, even in the United Kingdom. But every time Sir Lewis defended himself against the onslaught, there was an almighty outcry and both the victim and the assailant would be threatened with sanctions. Mercedes were in effect enabling Nico's attacks on Sir Lewis, while pretending not to know that Nico was the aggressor. Well, 8 years on, as the F1 circus rolls into Austria, Sir Lewis has overcome mysterious mechanical issues that only affected his car, out of all the 8 that are powered by Mercedes. His coming back fast at his teammate, who having not suffered any of the mysterious and not so mysterious issues that had exclusively plagued Sir Lewis, was able to run away with a 5-0 lead at the start of the season. That teammate is now crying wolf about whatever Sir Lewis was supposed to have done or not done. So, we watch to see how the rest of the season develops. Fortunately or unfortunately, depending on your outlook. The delusional Lulu fans are crying foul, chicken, goat, sabotage, or whatever else they can. Whistleblowers are coming out of the garage to scare the bejesus out of Toto and Mercedes, prompting them to scramble to find false narratives to hide their shame behind. So, let us see if any mysterious issues will continue to beset Sir Lewis exclusively. Let us see how clearly Russell can hear and respond to his master's dog whistle. Let us see what Austria will reveal.